We're here together today to discuss the notion of what is beauty, and we will also make some links with systems innovation because that's what we do. So I would like to welcome my colleagues here, and who would like to get started on the topic.
I brought it up, so I'll get started. And I guess my question is, in the context of what we're working on, obviously humans are motivated by beauty. They're drawn to beauty, and I'm not talking in the sense of material beauty or physical beauty or color or texture. I'm really thinking about, in the context of what we're doing, how do we find beautiful language to support abstract concepts, things that aren't material, and what are the properties we judge a beautiful system by. So, and then we can improve on it. Is it beautiful? Does it feel beautiful? Is it giving me that beautiful feeling? And if there's a piece that I need to adapt or adjust, how do I know? And how do I evaluate where that missing link is, or that missing piece, to create a really beautiful system? Now, I've done some research. I've looked at quite a few things about system design, mostly on programming, computer programming. So there are, very specific measurements for that. But I'd like to hear the general feedback on that question.
And yeah, maybe I will continue here because related to your question, how what are the key factors to allow beauty? And I was thinking that beauty is something that doesn't last. There is a notion of intemporality. So beauty is an instant. And when we are in a world where we are so afraid of death and living, the planet, where is the room for beauty in that space? I have a feeling that when we resist the perception of intemporality, we resist beauty. What do you think?
So, in other words, what you're saying is that fear and beauty have a hard time living together.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of fears these days.
We see a lot of beauty these days too. So I'm trying to see where they collide, where there's.
So maybe where do you find the beauty? Yes.
And I'm seeing an astonishing amount of reflection on, why is this so hard? Why is it so complicated? Why is it hard to talk to my neighbors? Why is it hard for us to get a system in place where we can just honestly say, okay, here's where we're going, and agree on it? Why is that hard to do? And at the same time, people are incredibly open about what they would like to see. And they're incredibly vulnerable, and there's beauty in that, because you're seeing deeper into people. You're seeing deeper into the things they want to preserve, the things that they think are worth putting energy and effort into. And yeah, I mean, if energy is required to be beautiful, I'm not so certain that's true. I think that beautiful can apply to so many different things, but I'm really fascinated by the abstract concept of, we all know when we see a beautiful painting, or we see a beautiful dog or a horse or something, that's we can sense with our five senses, but with our hearts and our thoughts, I'm just amazed at the number of people sharing recipes of how to do this or that thing, or offering help to each other. offering plant shoots to each other. So if you want to start a garden in your backyard, if you want to have, oh, you've got a baby coming and you don't want to go to the store, well, here's some stuff for your baby. Just incredible generosity, which I think is beautiful. Generosity and curiosity. There's a good deal of beauty in a beautiful question.
Well, if I may add something spontaneously, after having reflected a lot. Now, what I think it's about the use of the word, you know, nice or beautiful. So when you say, oh, that's a nice person, sometimes we refer not to the body, but to their soul, or a nice job. We are referring to the fact that it's pretty well done, as we say in English, pretty well. And I think yes, the beauty is subjective, depending on people, and deprived from material benefit. The expectation of material benefit is not benefit driven. And in fact, beauty is for the sake of beauty, you know, and nothing else to me. So this is free, you know, and I see beauty in my eyes. Julie will find that otherwise, and that's okay, you know, and that's okay. So and I could relate that to for some people that could be related to harmony, you know, to serenity, to many things that could provide them with, you know, that the beauty could provide them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
That's all for the moment.
I think it was Picasso who said, art is not, it's not necessary, it's not useful, it's just, no, he didn't say not necessary. He said, art is useless, but it's absolutely necessary.
Exactly. I like that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, remember me, you know, Eisenhower, a battle plan is useless, but planning a battle is indispensable.
Yeah. So must we plan for beauty, or must we plan to see beauty? There's a great exhortation right now, you know, find the beauty in everything, have a nice day. And I think we have a tendency to try to obliterate non-beauty.
And yes, Bess, I think that we can discover or find beauty along the road, along the path. It's not the aim. It's not the aim, but and I could relate that to serendipity, you know, and you could find beauty while making efforts to find I don't know, the Graal or something else, and it's there, just around the corner. Now I know how to say that.
It's very interesting to see
possible.
how society defines some criteria for beauty, but beauty is so subjective. So as you say, it's in our eyes, you know, it's and are we seeing beauty today easily, like we used to? Is it that simple? Related to my perception with fears.
Oh, I like that, Julie, because my opinion, some people never see beauty. They always look at, try to find what is not beautiful or nice in a work, in a situation, or in a person. Right.
Yeah, there's something absolute. It has to be absolute beauty, or it has to be absolute 100%. What do you think, Cécile?
Well, listening to you, I was just wondering how a collective can define a beauty that is a beauty for everyone, because it seems to me that the beauty is just the meeting or the encounter between me and what I found beautiful. And I, at this moment, decide to open up to this thing and to link to this thing and to forget the rest, just to find it beautiful. And that's just the relationship between me and this object that creates this beauty. So I relate to the question of Julie. If society wants to define beauty, I find it kind of too much two-dimensional.
It's a bit réducteur, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about
we agree on some of these beautiful objects.
Yes, but this is individuals agreeing on, and what I find beautiful, something that you may find beautiful as well, but we won't feel really the same. We will have our own experience that won't be the same beauty that we see.
But don't you think that in a system where you find a solution that seems to work for everybody, not everybody's going to have the same perception of it. That's an absolute fact. The idea is that it satisfies what they came there for at some level. And maybe all of them in the same way, maybe not, who knows? And I think that would be really utopic to say, oh, we're all going to have the same feeling about the same thing at the same time. But it's interesting, you know, what are the properties that you would say you would focus on in a robust system? Or let's say we're making a system change, because we're moving into prototyping soon, right? We're going to try to prototype a new system. And on it, I'm so motivated by the beautiful thing, you know, when the coin drops and you think, that's it, you know. It's like when you dive into a swimming pool. Aside from people who absolutely hate water, I don't know too many people who won't say that's a beautiful feeling, you know, on a hot day when you dive into a swimming pool. We would all more or less agree that that feels phenomenally great. And not, you know, not for the same reason. Some want to bob around, some want to swim, some want to play with their kid, who knows? But the feeling, you know, the penetrating feeling is the same. And again, if we're trying to do a system, we're trying to create an adapted system that works better, that solves certain problems for people, that opens opportunities for other people. How do we know what properties to look at that we can say, that is beautiful, that works? In order to say the thing next to it didn't actually work, and how can we improve on that? That's what I'm curious about, because we have to agree on the whatever principles or properties we are going to examine, that we all feel like, wow, yeah, that did that the way we wanted it to do it. And that the beauty is actually the feeling you have.
Bess, it's exactly what I would like to say. It was the beauty sometimes in the process, the thinking process, for instance, when you see a possible solution emerging, you know, when facing a complexity, for instance. Yeah. And exactly, I like that. Yeah.
Mark, I wanted to come back, I mean, related to the question of Beth, I was thinking that maybe we should define where the system wants to go. Because as you noticed, Mark, some people are not able to find the beauty. And if the system, I understood that the system we want is a system that will seek well-being and happiness. And there's a disease which is called Clericophobia. It's organisms that are not able to to enjoy happiness. They have the fear of happiness, as if the day they are happy and achieve well-being, their system will die. It's the end of the world for them. And when you are facing a system, as Stefan was telling us a few months ago, you know, a system that is dying, you can imagine that you might have Clericophobia, so the fear of happiness. And when you have Clericophobia, you are not able to see beauty. On the contrary, you are sort of attracted by ugliness. And I'm looking at the system, for instance, of the EU institutions, and you see all these buildings in Brussels, Rue de la Loi.
It's ugly.
You know? And it's becoming a little bit better, let's say. There are new buildings, you know, like the council, but it's very gray, it's very dark. Where is beauty there? And
the council is beautiful. The egg at the council is very beautiful.
Voilà, the council is the exception, let's say. And it's good because we see that actually we create at the moment these exceptions because we are trying to build more beautiful buildings. And that's good news, right? But so yes, in a system that is dying, how can you make sure that people, how can you accompany people to see the beauty? more.
If I may, because based on what you just said and what Beth was saying earlier, the question about how, you know, what are the components of beauty, I think there is this notion of harmony, which is there, which we see in nature all the time. And then, of course, harmony within a system which is not functional is not there. So therefore, to reuse what you were mentioning, Julie, you know, I forgot the expression, you know, but when people are looking at the ugly stuff, actually what they're doing, they're trying to fix something which is ugly, and there's no time to take stock of the beauty which is there. And this goes back to what you were discussing earlier about, like, Bess, you said beauty is everywhere, but we just need to pay attention. But if we're busy focusing on other stuff, we're never going to see it. And then we're going to discount it. And then we become more fearful. And, you know, and then we have this kind of positive feedback loop where people just turn their back on beauty, which makes them even more afraid. And then when you talk about death and dying of any system, could be a person, could be an organization, we forget the beauty which is in there and the poetry which is there.
It's a funny paradox too, Steph, because one of the 6 criteria that I learned in my research about beautiful systems design was generalizability, being able to generalize. And what you're saying is that people generalize the ugly, and it spreads. And I'm wondering if we could capture that dynamic and generalize the beauty. You know, whatever that dynamic is, there's an operating system in that dynamic that makes it go. And that is a pulsion, an impulse toward destruction, fear. It's always been this way, danger, change is going to be a horrible thing, and I just feel like those dynamics, you know, the human dynamic of, you know, complaining, and then, yeah, but I'm going to complain more than you, and no, but my complaint is bigger than your complaint, and you can do the same thing with beauty. You know, my Easter egg's prettier than your Easter egg. Oh yeah, but I've got a chicken, and my chicken is fantastically beautiful. Oh yeah, well, I've got a goat, and my goat is bigger than your chicken and even more beautiful than your chicken. So there's a way of, like, making a joyful and playful thing about where's the beauty.
And maybe I can help you here, related to your question of generalization and the aspect of harmony that is needed. And I was thinking that if you seeking beauty in the other, it's a way to generalize beauty, because what we see at the moment, I feel, is that we don't appreciate as much as we could, you know, the diversity coming from the other. And when you mentioned harmony, I was thinking about, you know, the feminine and masculine energy that are needed, and so slowness, as well as industrial sort of, you know, mindset of we need to respond to this crisis quickly and react and so on and so forth. But there's not I don't see really the feminine energy, you know, that is more slow and caring and also seeking beauty. And I was thinking that if you're looking for, you know, the beauty in others, then you can appreciate the beauty in yourself, and you also can better balance also in your own system the feminine and the masculine.
But it's about esteem, self-esteem, etc., etc.
More self-worth than self-esteem, I would think. Self-esteem is a little bit more about what other people say about me, and self-worth is what I say about me. But there's a really beautiful thing you just said, Julie, and I think there's something about this propagation of a beautiful idea, and not to, you know, it needs to be easy. It, you know, beauty isn't really complicated. It doesn't need to be complicated, and especially in a complex system we need to find those moments of grace, you know, or that language of grace, or that idea that's a gracious idea that makes it, you know, it's like the appetite will be there. It will just be there because there's nothing to do except accept it. And that sounds very idealistic and crazy, but if somebody comes into the situation we're in now and says a terrible thing happened, everybody drops everything and wants to hear the terrible thing. But I wouldn't say that you have the same reflex with, oh, I had a beautiful thing. Well, I'll get to you in just a minute. I've got a phone call to make. You know, or, I met somebody incredible. No, but I really can't talk right now. There's got to be a way to reset that appetite. And again, it comes back to me, like, what do we need to put our finger on in our work and our prototyping to say, okay, this thing is irresistible. This beautiful feeling that you'll have if you contribute to this, if you're part of it, if you benefit from it. And maybe it comes down to the values of the institutions or the European project. Because I don't think it was designed to be for us to be afraid of it, ever.
I'm thinking, while listening to you, I'm seeing a kid, you know, with big eyes, you know, looking at beautiful stuff, you know, like, and I'm like, it's all about the mindset. It's all coming back to the mind, the outward mindset. I'm curious.
May I bounce back? This has nothing to do with what you said, but I was thinking about, you know, fashions that influence a lot the definition of beauty, the temporary, you know, standards of beauty, and it depends. And back to the system, like me, you know, to set up management by objectives, you know. I was completely, you know, surprised at first, you know, and it's another fashion, you know. The matrix organization is beautiful. Yeah? Management by objective is beautiful. Many things are beautiful, independent on the fashions, you know. But after the private sector, then that come to the public sector, and that makes the same harm, you know. What is a beautiful system? What is a beautiful organization? What did they find beautiful?
Mark, what did they find beautiful about it in the first place when it became fashionable? There's a reason it became fashionable. What was that? What was the priority or the property that it had that what itch did it scratch?
I think that people would like to back, you know, to cover their bottom. You see, and asking for the, you know, the big four, you know, and getting the stample of the big fours that reassure senior management and even regarding politicians. I believe that.
So they're delegating their thinking and their appreciation of what's beautiful.
Exactly. As you know, in any matrix organization, you can play. And if you feel good, you know, you can play with every, you know, hierarchical or functional relationship. And for some people, that's the beauty of the game, you know. Now I can play more than before. So it's amazing, you know. And I'm always, you know, surprised. This is the beauty of my job, you know, surprised by the same errors, mistakes that are making, you know, the different activity sectors, one after the others. First the private, first from America, Great Britain, then the old Europe, in the private sector, then eventually the public sector at the end, with all the craps, without any lessons learned, any.
Yeah. I would say that beauty in a system would be listening to you, Mark. When people within the system have the genuine ability and authorization to express their notion of what is beautiful, because it's their own meaning making that is expressing. It's not the one of the big four that has been delegated by the top management and then everybody is playing a game that nobody cares about deeply. So if people have the ability to connect to themselves, to express it, first you will have the ability for them to feel it and then to express it. So in a system, I would say that this is a system that respects this. And I actually have a very good example because I work in a community in which you can, in which you can express any concern, even with the way this group is going strategic wise. If you think like, well, I feel I'm disconnected completely from that decision, then that's okay. And if you say, I feel weak about what I'm asked to do, that's okay. And you can bring it, you can bring your own meaning making.
Mm-hmm.
So you can feel better what is achieved when you achieve it. Mm-hmm. And you give more, and you give more of yourself. Mm-hmm. So I believe a system that is beautiful is a system that respects this.
I think that. It also encourages you to think.
Yes.
In systems where you're just ticking boxes or repeating what one of the big four told you to do, you're not thinking, and again, you're not capturing the beautiful thing this day, or the great opportunity that's present this day, and right now, and maybe not tomorrow.
Yes, and that in this example, that gives me the will to go and tell my difficulties in order even to be contradicted, because I know that this conversation will make me grow. And even if it's not easy to have such a discussion, it's kind of beautiful because I kind of expand within.
Mm-hmm. And when you mention respect, for me, I hear caring.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, Mark put in the chat box, learning is beautiful. I think growth is beautiful, and not in the, not in the capitalistic notion of growth, but, humans are curious and they want to grow. That is how humans are. And if you're in a stifling job with a stifling process to do a stifling thing that you don't even care about the outcome, which is the opposite of what you just described, Cécile, you're not even there. You might as well not even be there. And there's no way you can put your finger on anything other than your paycheck to say, here's why I'm doing this. And I don't think that's a very beautiful modus for a whole lifetime of work. You want to grow, you want to learn. Steph, what do you think?
Well, I'm kind of overwhelmed by everything you guys are saying because it resonates a lot. For me, I think also there is this notion, you were mentioning the big four earlier, there's this notion that some people probably sometimes they're supposed to know better than you do about what you feel and how you see beauty. And for me, I see beauty in many places. I look around here, I see a lot of beauty. But if I don't pay attention to it, I'm not going to see it. So by divesting my perception, by denying my own power to stop and observe and be there, I let other people make choices for me that have nothing to do with what I really need or who I really am. And I think nowadays when you hear talking about beauty, people probably get this misconception that is about fashion, but beauty is timeless. And we need to really take care of that, because if we don't, then we're going to go into this feedback loop I was describing earlier, which actually it brings me to another thought. Because if you look at this this double loop, which I often mention, where you have a system dying and a system that's emerging, then you of course in a dying system, which is becoming increasingly chaotic by definition, it's overwhelmed with information, with data, which it doesn't know how to process, so it doesn't see the beauty anymore. Now people are stepping out of that and going into this emergent system, in those emergent systems, are able to see the beauty. So I think it's very difficult to be able to live in both places at the same time. You can be present in one, but your mind is already somewhere else, or you're present in one and you live there and you forget about beauty.
Does this mean that you need to have in the place, let's say, some people who have the ability to accompany the quest for beauty, let's say, and as you mentioned that you are only able to find beauty if you are truly connected to yourself.
Yeah, and that's probably
senses.
And that's probably the beauty of why, Beth suggested this topic. Because by raising this question, actually, we allow ourselves to move to another place and be able to see other things. And, in this conversation, actually, I feel much more serene than I was earlier during the day, because I realize how important it is for me to not forget that I am part of an emergent system, even though I still live in a dying system, which is my own perspective. And I'm not trying to convince anyone about that.
And maybe it would be a good idea, like, to summarize what are the key ingredients to find like this beauty. And we heard many things, like the need for harmony between the feminine and the masculine, the need for respect and caring and connecting to our senses, finding back our authenticity, our authentic voice.
Learning.
And we heard learning. We heard that, how much competition and industrial mindsets may harm, and also like following blindly.
On that note, Julia, I'd want to come back on one thing that you said about following. And you said earlier, we have a hard time finding beauty, or yeah, you said we have a hard time finding beauty. Beauty will come and find you. If you've got your mind, if you've got the welcome mat out, it will come. Yeah. It's all there. It's what Steph said, he's looking around, it's all over the place. It's also each of us defining it, but when we're working on something collectively, you're right, those ingredients need to be there, and there needs to be some touchstone ingredients, things that we can say, okay, without this, it can't be a beautiful system. And I give you my list that I took from my thing, if you'd like to hear it. This is really based on managing data for the most part. But the first thing is minimalism. So the least amount of components to get the most things done. So lean needs to be lean, and it needs to be really well thought through in terms of how many extra pieces are there. Can we thin it down? Clarity and how it's represented. How do we represent it in a way that it's meaningful to everybody without any kind of nuance that can muddy the perception of what we're doing? Consistency, and this goes back to Steph's favorite subject of fractals, but if it's consistent in the system, every single thing contributes to the system, and that's beautiful. If it's all the pieces are contributing, not necessarily in equal measure or an equal volume or time, but they're all contributing to that thing, then you've got a very a beautiful system where the different parts of it all relate to each other. So they're not necessarily fixed on just getting to that target. Propriety, is it clean? My favorite word. So you've got incidental and inherent complexity. So incidental complexity might be something that shows up, that creates a complex problem for you. And inherent complexity is something that's actually built into the system that needs to be re-examined. Orthonography or I have a hard time with it. Cecily, you know the word. What is it?
In French.
Orthonogamie.
Ah, voilà, ça va mieux, je comprends pas.
Yeah, me
So
neither.
it has no side effects. If one piece in the system goes wonky,
Huh?
it doesn't have side effects on another part of the system. Like
It's not Murphy law. No, it's not.
it's orthogonal. So
Orthogonal?
the idea being that if like we're all, you know, the five of us working on something, if I'm doing something and it goes off the rails, that I can reach out to you and say, come and help me, without it disturbing your project too much and without mine having an effect on your projects that will be deleterious to your projects. And the last thing was is it generalizable? Is it something that we can reapply? So is it scalable? If we're doing a prototype that is dealing with certain systems, is it a thing that we can use to scale to another project, another system altogether? And this is something we talked about early with Steph, was, you know, the whole idea of rewind and reapply. We're doing a prototype, but we're not going to say this will solve everything in the entire European Union, because that's the problem with calling the big four, is they'll tell you that they can. And each system has its own components that will need to be looked at. So yes.
I just have one little reaction about the time element, because we started, I mean, when we started, I say that beauty is by essence
Timeless.
No, she said it was time-ish. She said it was temporal.
And Stefan said timeless.
So maybe it's everything. Maybe it's all of those.
So I was thinking that, is there something here that we can add to this list related to time?
And what would it be?
La beauté est parfois éphémère.
I was just thinking that we should not be rigid.
That's definitely a behavioral attention for certain.
Yeah, and Mark was saying that this power of intention related to beauty, and we mentioned, you know, the outward mindset that is absolutely needed. So I was just thinking that, should we come like with open heart, open mind, open will to
open will.
How important it is to be open, just open.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be adaptable. It needs to be adaptable. And again, that goes back to the whole notion of minimal, you know, what's the least amount of, what's the pressure points that you can make a change that will create adaptation without it being just, you know, a total disruption that isn't a necessary or a useful or a beautiful disruption, but just a disruption, which can be perceived as destruction.
So there are 7.
All right, so thank you very much for this. Very interesting conversation indeed. There would be a lot more to be said, but we can probably get back to this conversation very soon. So thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next videos from Systems Innovation Brussels. Thank you, bye-bye.